Health of the host depends upon the delicate balance between the different microbial species. They interact actively, so actively, with the internal milieu of their host, which may ultimately result in a benefit or it may result in a detrimental illness. The disturbance in their composition can happen and also may lead to the different kind of health issues, from minor health issues to a very major health problems. Outgrowth of the opportunistic bacterial pathogen can threaten the health and life of the host to a very great extreme extent. There is diversity of microbial ecology within the human body, as all of us know. The vaginal microbiota, in particular, is unique in that in many women it is most often dominated by what we always know and a quite popular one, that is the Lactobacillus species. The most common bacteria that inhabit the vagina belong to the genus Lactobacillus, as I've already told, and that is to extent of about almost 95% of the total vaginal or the reproductive tract milieu. However, some women are little different. What happens in them? They lack certain Lactobacillus species, which I was mentioning so far. They are comprised of a wide array of facultative anaerobes that come in place of lactobacillus. Thus, they have an increased risk of infection and thus a poorer ART outcomes and even the obstetric outcomes. The composition and function of the vaginal microbiota appear to play an important role in pregnancy and our fertility treatment outcomes. Interestingly, the level of protection against the infection can also vary by the species, not only just a broad spectrum of Lactobacillus genus, it is inside that genus the different species and strains of the Lactobacillus itself. So it is the balance between these different species of Lactobacillus that matters. So the microbiome profiling, that is the detailed profile of these microbiomes, enables the accurate prediction of both the failure and also the other side of the coin, the success of the fertility treatment, needless to say. Women with an unfavorable profile had 7 times lower chance of achieving a pregnancy. That's quite a huge number compared to the women who had a favorable one. Some definitions. What is a microbiome? It is the collection of the microorganisms that live in the human body. It is the total collection of these microbiota and their complete genetic profile, that is full detail of these microbiomes microorganisms together comprises what is called as the microbiome. It's a kind of environment in the human body. What are probiotics? We keep talking about probiotics. What are these? These are the food or the supplements that contain the live microorganisms. Probably the ones, the lactobacillus capsule, what we take, like the Bifilac or Bicilac, whatever we say, that itself is also a supplement, and thus that is a probiotic. They improve the good bacteria. They boost the normal microflora in the gut, the vagina, and the reproductive tract. Now, what is prebiotic? These are the food which are usually the high fiber diet. They are the ones which promote the probiotics, in the sense they increase the tribe of the probiotics and they act as a food for the human microflora. So it is the pre and the probiotics together when we give is called as a microbiome therapy, which we usually give when we start our ART treatment for the patients. The gastrointestinal tract comprises of about 29% of the total microbiome environment, whereas the urogenital side comprises about one third of that. The normal flora of the reproductive tract includes a variety of lactobacillus, which promote a healthy, supportive environment for the embryo in the peri and periconceptual period, and this is what helps for our favorable ART outcome. Lactobacillus acidophilus, which we are very familiar with, we have been studying since our student days, is a most researched strain of the probiotic, and that is the one which is responsible for establishing and maintaining healthy vaginal environment. Other dominant species are also there. Out of that, a very conducive or a favorable friendly one is the Lactobacillus crispatus, which I am going to tell in my future slides. What does this lactobacillus do? Why do we want the lactobacillus? Why do we call it as a favorable one? Because it produces the short chain fatty acids. Thus, it reduces the pH, and a healthy vaginal pH is around 4, as all of you know. And thus, it has protective effect against the pathogen colonization. It does not allow the pathogens to colonize in the vaginal milieu. Different lactobacillus species have different characteristics, such as the ability to produce the lactic acid from the short chain fatty acids, probably from the degradation of the glycogen conversion also. The acidity that is achieved by the crispators is the highest compared to all the other minor ones. So, crispators is a very friendly lactobacillus species. Lactic acid production boosts the innate immune system components that inhibit the growth of the bacteria other than the lactobacillus. Lactobacillus also acts as a mechanical barrier, not only by reducing the pH and the chemical reaction, what it does, it purely acts as a mechanical barrier also. Thus, it prevents the other pathogens binding into the vaginal wall, and thus it prevents those bacteria getting invading and thus acting further. Lactobacillus may also attack directly the harmful bacteria, and it directly interacts, combats, and kills them. And this is one more action of the lactobacillus. Microbiota play a key role in implantation and pregnancy success in IVF. Alteration in the vaginal microbiome may alter the reproductive potential of the infertile patients and perhaps correcting microbial dysbiosis. This imbalance is called as a dysbiosis, would lead to the improved sexes. We need correction of this dysbiosis. The presence of a non-lactobacillus dominated microbiota was associated with a significant decrease not only in implantation but also on the ongoing pregnancy and live birth, and even in non-pregnant women there was an increase in the incidence of sexually transmitted disease and pelvic inflammatory disease. Pathological modification of this profile is associated with the poorer reproductive outcome. Pathological modification, it results in a poorer outcome of IVF patients. Microbiota in the uterine cavity, which is definitely a continuum of the microbiota in the vagina, though there are some differences between the two, it is almost the same. The environment is almost same. So this may have impact on the embryo implantation and ongoing pregnancy, needless to say. You may be surprised to know this fact. 40% of the patients undergoing IVF cycles who have no symptoms of infection have abnormal reproductive tract microbiota. They may be asymptomatic, but they harbor abnormal reproductive microbiota, I underline. This is proved by the posterior fornix swabs taken during the different stimulation days of the ART cycles, and there are many studies which support this. In one study that is conducted on 91 women, though the sample is less, who undergo IVF with ET, there is a reduction of implantation rate, live birth rate, and ongoing pregnancy rate, which is an important parameter for us, was seen in the group with a positive culture for Streptococcus viridans. There was no lactobacillus, there was multiplication, or there were thriving of these organisms like Streptococcus, Enterobacteriaceae, and Staphylococcus that was recovered from the embryo catheter tip. Few studies have shown a 50% reduction in pregnancy rate. That's a huge number when the bacteria were recovered from the embryo transfer catheter tip, according to this study. Vaginal microfloral composition at the time of embryo transfer appeared to be an important factor in the success of IVF embryo transfer procedure, with the vaginal microbiome composed solely of the lactobacillus yielding the most successful outcome. Only specific lactobacillus species are present in the healthy flora, and these species are likely to play a pivotal role in maintaining a supportive environment, a conducive environment, a friendly environment for implantation and future ART outcome. In the infertility clinical setting, a broad spectrum antibiotic therapy, that is amoxicillin or the levofloxacin, was used to modulate these non-lactobacillus dominant environment into lactobacillus dominant environment by the combination or addition of pre and probiotics. You may be surprised to know this fact that 53% of patients achieved lactobacillus dominant state in the vagina and the uterus, while showing a higher pregnancy rate just because this change was made compared to the non-lactobacillus dominant group. Administration of the broad spectrum broad spectrum antibiotics like levofloxacin reduce the growth of E. coli in the vaginal smears, and you all know that it is one of the culprits in many of the gynec infections. Administration of probiotics with lactobacillus and or addition of antibiotics may be considered useful to treat subclinical or recurrent vaginal and uterine infections, that is, a clinical infections. Healthy vaginal microbiota can prevent the urogenital ill health such as recurrent urinary tract infection and bacterial vaginosis, as I have told, because it reduces the condensation of the E. coli or the harboring of the E. coli in the vaginal environment. Probiotics have an immunomodulatory effect of cytokine profiles, and they confer immunological protection to the host through the regulation, stimulation, and modulation of immune responses. And probably that helps in preventing the rejection of the embryo. Vaginal and seminal microbiome of 23 couples were studied with the idiopathic infertility. This arm contained idiopathic infertility patients, and that was analyzed via the vaginal swabs and the seminal fluids collected through PCR. The result was the differential composition of the vaginal microbiome, but not the seminal microbiome. It is only the vaginal microbiome, they said, is associated with the success of IUI in couples with idiopathic infertility, and the seminal parameters were not altered in the other arm. L. crispatus promotes a favorable environment for pregnancy, as I have already mentioned briefly. Studies that characterize the vaginal microbiome in ART support the hypothesis that colonizing the transfer catheter tip with Lactobacillus crispatus at the time of embryo transfer, improving the colony count of the catheter tip during the embryo transfer, may increase the rate of implantation and thus the live birth rate, while decreasing the rate of infection in the endometrium and also the vagina. Vaginal L. crispatus domination was an important factor that strongly associated with even IUI success and not only IVF. Vaginal microbiome has been shown to change during the normal menstruation also. This is little bit different from the ART. During the normal menstrual cycle also, with the varied estrogen levels in the physiological range, thus having cyclical hormonal influence. What I want to say is probably this vaginal microbiome pattern is going to change depending upon the menstrual cycle phase. There is an association of the reproductive tract microbiome composition with the circulating estrogen and progesterone levels and their balance. Women with anovulation were also 3 times more likely to have bacterial vaginosis than women with other factor infertility. Probably this means that estrogen is needed, but not the excess level of estrogen. And this excess level of estrogen may cause hampering of the vaginal flora. Alteration in the vaginal microbiome may have an impact on the cytokine network by causing endometrial inflammation, and this cytokine network is an important influencing factor in the fertility for the embryo and its adaptation to the microenvironment, that is the endometrium. In endometriosis also there are certain studies. I have put the gist of it, and they say significant increase in the vaginal pH is known in patients who are suffering from endometriosis, and most of the times it is beyond 4.5. It's more towards alkaline pH. Decrease in the normal vaginal microflora may be because of this, secondary to this in endometriosis patients. So this is just a pictorial diagram, and this says the uterine dysbiosis. The uterine dysbiosis with the gets converted to healthy uterine environment. That's the blue arrow that says using all the antibiotics, probiotics, prebiotics, maybe oral, vaginal, intrauterine route, however you are using. Some people even have used the fecal microbial transplants into the vaginal uterine cavity, and ultimately that results in a healthy uterine environment from the unhealthy uterine environment. Negative impact of ART procedures. Contamination is possible from vaginal cervical microorganisms during the needle puncture of ovum pickup. Controlled ovarian hyperstimulation would also impact the vaginal microbiome. This may represent another argument why we are going for FET nowadays. Means during the FET, the vaginal microbiome may become more friendly because we are not doing the ovum pickup in that cycle, or we are not stimulating ovary during the FET cycle. Microorganisms that enter the endometrium from the cervix during the embryo transfer could damage the developing embryo and prevent the pregnancy, which I have already mentioned. Coming a little bit different, a particular entity, that is bacterial vaginosis. What is its impact on fertility? Rather than a single organism impairing female fertility, variations in the overall vaginal microbiome, such as the bacterial vaginosis, may also have a significant role in infertility because that itself initiates the vaginal dysbiosis. It hampers the symbiosis in the vaginal flora. Bacterial vaginosis is a common genital disorder with the prevalence of approximately 20%, that is 1 out of 5 women in infertility population, the most common vaginal syndrome of reproductive age women, though it may be in any other age groups. Complete disruption of the vaginal ecosystem can occur exclusively because of bacterial vaginosis, in which anaerobic bacteria assume predominance, as all of us know, over the desirable strains of lactobacillus. Anaerobic bacteria take upper hand. Bacterial vaginosis is often subclinical, with the change of the vaginal microbiota from being dominated to a more heterogeneous environment, that's an unfriendly environment with anaerobic bacteria like Gardnerella vaginalis. Few studies have also been conducted in infertile women, and they have suggested a negative impact on fecundity in the presence of bacterial vaginosis, and a very negative result of ART outcomes. A recent study among the Nigerian women demonstrated that BV was 4 times prevalent in women with tubal factor infertility compared to fertile controls. Bacterial vaginosis has a high affinity in causing tubal damage and thus tubal infertility. This is a simple pictorial diagram which says the left square says a healthy vaginal environment. That's a lactobacillus dominated environment with a rod shaped bacteria. pH is low and it is not overcrowded with many unwanted cells. The right square says the bacterial vaginosis. Just put the diagram just to compare between the two. Right one is overcrowded with the cells, unwanted cells, exfoliated epithelial cells, what we call as clue cells, and pH is more than 4.5. Odor also is changed, thin vaginal secretion, because it is rife with bacterial vaginosis, that is a Gardnerella vaginalis and all those which I have mentioned here. Now, what is the pathophysiology of bacterial vaginosis? Why it causes female infertility? What happens there? There is a trigger in the generation of the ROS, that is a reactive oxidative species. Ultimately, this disrupts the membrane integrity. It hampers the tail motion of the sperm, and also the zona is affected, and thus there is a sperm oocyte fusion is hampered. Ultimately, that hampers fertilization, and I need not say that implantation is also hampered. A recent meta-analysis and systematic review of 12 studies exploring the role of bacterial vaginosis on infertility has shown that it is significantly more prevalent in infertile women than in pregnant women of the same population, and this review estimated that 1 in 5 women have bacterial vaginosis and at least 1 in 3 have an abnormal vaginal microflora just because of BV. BV is associated with a significantly elevated risk of preclinical pregnancy loss before we have made a diagnosis. The finding of a significantly raised rate of bacterial vaginosis in women with the tubal factor infertility supports the association between bacterial vaginosis, PID, and tubal damage, but this cross-sectional study does not help me to distinguish whether the increased bacterial vaginosis rate is secondary to the previous tubal damage that was already initiated by the pre-existing Chlamydia trachomatis or Neisseria gonorrhoeae, or whether bacterial vaginosis associated organisms themselves compromise the host immunity and thus they facilitate the spread or the augment the spread of the STD and the tubal infertility, or whether bacterial vaginosis itself per se causes the damage to the fallopian tube. Antibiotics are recommended for the management of bacterial vaginosis. Definitely yes, but the use of antibiotics can be associated sometimes, especially when it is a repeated administration of antibiotics can hamper the vaginal flora. They can reduce the concentration of lactobacillus and thus the higher recurrence rate of bacterial vaginosis. Antibiotics may also suppress the growth of lactobacilli, which antagonize the colonization of pathogens causing the bacterial vaginosis. It is evident from the literature that oral administration of lactobacilli-based probiotics, that is in the form of capsules or even the diet what we follow at home, reduce the number of pathogenic bacteria in women with bacterial vaginosis. It is just the war between the bacterial vaginosis, that is the Gardnerella species, and the lactobacillus.
Sorry to
Treatment.
interrupt,
Yeah, I'm about to finish.
Yeah.
The pregnancy rate with bacterial vaginosis treated was 49% and untreated was 24%. What is new? Something new in this field. Harnessing the special bacterial strains in the vagina so as to prime the vaginal microbiota in the pre and periconceptual period is a noble thought. The vaginal microbiota of IVF patients can be characterized by the qualitative polymerase chain tests, which may be promising tools for us. Use of next generation DNA sequencing technologies or the molecular based techniques have really revolutionized, have improved our knowledge of the vaginal microbiomes. There is a new area, what we call as the vaginal microbiota transplants. This involves the transfer of the cervico-vaginal fluid of a healthy donor who never had any infection or her vaginal flora was quite healthy to a patient who aims to restore the most beneficial environment, whether it is for pre-ART treatment or the one who has a recurrent infection. VMT from healthy donors can be used as a therapeutic alternative for patients suffering from symptomatic, intractable, and recurrent vaginosis. This is my last slide. There is a window of opportunity for improving IVF reproductive outcomes by identifying high-risk women with abnormal vaginal microbiome, including bacterial vaginosis. What I mean to say is better to do a swab, treat all these people before we take the ART treatment. Without a favorable and conducive vaginal microbiome, the implantation and subsequent embryo development seems to be compromised definitely. Offering therapeutic options aiming at modulation of unfavorable vaginal microbiota towards a favorable one, converting them toward a favorable profile by use of all the things what I mentioned, probiotics and prebiotics, will enhance our ART outcome. New therapies such as microbiota transplants are gaining popularity for improvising and maintaining the optimal composition of the microbiota. We are now able to explore the microorganisms that were not detected previously, adding missing pieces of the puzzle, thus called the reproductive tract microbiome.